Hello guys, welcome to the Week 3 edition of the PMA LCS recap. I'm Jirachi. I'm joined by the experts, panelists, quote-unquote, Theatrics, Guy Fieri, and Menvung. How's it going, guys?
Hey.
It's going good, man. Change the title.
Better than I deserve.
Oh, true. Oh my god. Yep. Okay, someone... who has mod powers?
I don't know if I do or not.
Hold up. Okay, stall while I change the title of the stream.
Well, I can start by saying, if you haven't noticed yet, we decided we were going to give every team their team colors, so that happened. I think it's exciting. Cool. Obviously, Pooh's team color is brown.
And to team the Spanish Torpedoes, because the S is a $sign, we just gave them white on black, but the $sign is green.
So if you have a severe issue with your team color scheme, talk to Rich.
Okay, we all came up with these like 5 minutes ago. It was not just me.
I blame Rich as well.
Steven says I did not sign up for orange. Well, that was Miami U's colors, so that's why we did it.
Yes, orange.
He's just figuring it out right now. He's figuring it out right now as I said it.
Okay. And I'm pink.
I am provoked. Let's just leave it at that. Anyway, so first things first, let's just go over the matches from last week. First up, we had Rich is provoked taking the 2-0 over the Spanish Torpedoes.
Yep, and it was like the first game of the week. It happened so quickly that it wasn't even a part of last week's power rankings or recap. Ended up with RIP getting a 2-0 over TST. The VODs are out right now. Second game, both games ended under 30 minutes, I believe, if not mistaken, or around 30 minutes. And fairly one-sided game on both games, but it's led to TST revamping and kind of retooling their roster and putting Rob now in the bot lane with Will Brooks in the mid lane, so hopefully we see more great things coming out of TST.
Yeah, and next up, We Are a Rhino took a 2-0 versus the Boosted Gorilla Monkeys, which could have... Honestly, I consider that a bit of an upset.
Well, so everyone beforehand, last week's analyst, thought it was a 2-0 for BGM, with Boosted Gorilla Monkeys coming off a really strong week. I believed in the shot calling of Ali and everybody. Turns out that Ali's computer decided to take a poop forever. Literally 30 minutes of pause time happened there. But, you know, with clutch plays from Caleb and Eric, Guy Fieri, on Sejuani to kind of mitigate the loss that could have happened while the DC was happening. And also the first game was a whole lot cleaner than the second game for them, although there has a lot to be said.
Well, I mean, we had
30 minutes of pause. But it was a really good series. Definitely the match of the week in terms of skill. Now, there's a different type of match of the week that happened later on. I'll let someone talk about that.
No.
So this was the match of the week. So this was the fabled Pooh-Bat matchup. So Big Junior poops in the woods, and Big Anime Titties squared off. It was a battle of the Lee Sins, and Lee Sin lost both games. Kind of ironic. But in game one, we saw the kind of early mid-game power of a Lee Sin Zed combo from Big Anime Titties. When they start to steamroll a game, they were able to counterpick Hiramar's Vigar and just kill him over and over and over again. But then it turns out that Bear Jr. is actually a god and managed to make some pretty ridiculous outplays on Thresh to save the game, which allowed Pooh to get the win in game 1. And then we... Oh no, I'm talking about the wrong series. Holy,
You're talking about the right series, but you're talking. You should not be talking about this series. Yes.
I'm out. I'm bad. Oh well. I'll just keep going.
Yep. And then
Pooh
the next one.
the win in game 1.
Group
And then
5
game
versus... Give me that ace. Oh, okay.
Basically, in game 2, Dylan picked Vi and killed everything. That was pretty much
Yeah, a little bit of a chink showed in Pooh's armor there. It's pretty good for teams to see that they're not completely invincible. There are ways to get ahead.
After they wrecked us the first week.
A lot of strength shown from the top lane, specifically there for Big Anime Titties coming out really clutch was Sebastian on that Jace. As we all know, he's very strong on that champion. Really helped them to cement the win and stop Austin from being such a dominant split pusher like he can be on that Nasus. So, just something definitely a VOD that teams are going to want to watch when preparing for games against Bear Jr. and his team in the future.
And now, finally, the next match. I think, in hindsight, the match of the week. Give me that ace with the 1-1 tie versus Kirk 5. If you have not watched the VODs, watch the VOD of Game 2. Set yourself an hour to do so, but it's some of the funniest casting you will ever hear.
Speedy Rammus, that's all we have to say.
Speedy Rammus, and just the first, I believe, quad cast of a regular season game that we had, which Rich wanted to get into as well, but that would have been something else. But our own man on the desk here, Theatrics, coming away with the Speedy Rammus, leaving us all to question why.
Sometimes you just gotta go fast to make a game go slow, you know what I mean?
The next, he's playing 4D chess with Rammus over here, like he's filming.
4D speedy chess.
And then
Speedy Rammus.
Next series, Rich.
Next series is S&M versus HVG, which HVG took the 2-0. Pretty convincingly, actually. Game 1 started. S&M was making some really good early game moves. Actually, Front Lash was swapped over to jungle because Murphy Raudette subbed in the top lane, and also StarCraft subbed in ADC. But Front Lash got first blood both games off a really strong Poppy gank, and S&M were making some good early game moves, but HVG ended up just taking over Game 1 through some great fighting and great team play, and then Game 2 wasn't really that close.
Pretty hard to play with 2 subs on the day of, and then get a switch from your captain in his comfort role, but he still gets his comfort champion, and made some really, really nice plays.
Yeah, so with those matches, the standings are pulled up as it is currently. In first place, HVG has 9 points. Tied for second are Wart and Pooh with 7. BGM and Soul Control of 4th with 6 points. Rip in Soul Control of 5th place with 4 points. A 3-way tie for 6th with GDA, BAT, and G5 all with 2 points. S&M has 1 point in 9th place, and in dead last currently TST with 0. Hope they can change things. Change things around and have a turn of fortune.
They have changed around the roster.
Yep.
So we'll see if
Rob is now playing support.
Yeah, we'll see if as the week goes on, this next week, we'll see if the changes can help them increase their synergy and get what they want out of that roster for sure.
Yeah, and now on to some team power rankings. Now, these are actually slightly different from the standings. The standings are purely, okay, how many points does everyone have? But team power rankings, we are taking into account how good do they look in their wins or losses, what teams have they played against, a bunch of factors, and these are our compiled, what we think the order of like team strength is right now. So I'll take this 2 at a time, starting from the bottom. So in 9 and 10, it is just the same as the 9 and 10th place teams, S&M and TST.
Yeah, and I think that's one where it comes down to, like, they're not getting the Ws. It doesn't get as simple as that, and once those teams can start getting some Ws on the board, maybe get a chance to get some wins under their belt, you can start seeing them potentially raise up those power rankings.
Well, and a key here to look at too is roster instability is the tail of the tape for both of these teams. You don't see as much roster shifting going around with some of the teams higher up on the list. So as these guys settle in, I think that there will be some fluctuation. But yeah, right now that's how it stands.
Yeah, and also pulled up, the blue column is actually to make the red and green of the shifting pop out a little bit more, but you can see on the side how these teams and then later the players have shifted around from the last edition. Team power rankings are from what we did back in week 1. So yeah, on to number 7 and 8. Number 8 is going to be Gimme That Ace, and G5 is going to be in 7th.
Yeah, and this is one, like, those 3 teams all kind of split at 2 points. Big Anime is included in that. There's a lot of just kind of guesswork involved. I know for me, I don't even remember if what I said was the right order. I'm gonna go remember what I had said in my order. Hang on. For me, I had put Gimme That Ace above Gerg 5 because I just think Gimme That Ace in their wins have looked fairly clean, and Gerg 5 in their losses have pretty much thrown. So it's like, but I know that's not even how it ended up being. So, you know, it's just kind of semantics and just kind of like the eye test with these teams in the middle brackets.
I think for me, what I did, I put GDA a little bit below G5. I felt like G5 has a playstyle that they know they're comfortable playing with. GDA, on the other hand, is trying to fine-tune some things, and we talked to Adam about that a little bit in the post-game interview after their games about like his role and how he's going to play. So they're just trying to work out some finer things in there. I think when we come down to this, there's like a top 3 and then a middle pack and then a bottom 2 as of right now. So
absolutely,
all the teams in the middle are very, very close from going next to each other and stuff like that. So it could next week, Gimme That Ace could be top 4 as soon as next week.
Right.
Yeah, we could see a lot of fluctuation in next week's edition. But anyway, moving on, number 6 is going to be RIP, and number 5 is the Big Anime Titties.
And I think RIP is actually one of those teams that could even see themselves, if they continue to play the way they have been playing, they could continue to see themselves moving up the rankings. The only thing that's holding me back is so far the only team that they've 2-0'd is the Spanish Torpedoes.
Yeah.
Not saying that that's still not a good win, but it's just not. It hasn't shown enough yet.
Yeah, and for what it's worth, I think we looked good in that win, but every team that has played TST has looked good, so that doesn't mean that much.
Yeah, I think the big reason for the of BAT being ahead of RIP and this as we go 2x2 is their showing last week was incredibly good. They took the 1 game off of Pooh. I think that has a lot to say. They're the only game to they're the only team to take a game off of Pooh at this point.
Right.
And also just showing, I think, more diversity in their solo lanes than we've seen in any other team, especially with the assassin picks coming out.
Absolutely.
And then a top lane Malzahar. So there's more champion diversity that allows you to feel going forward and based off of how they've played that they will be a team to watch out for.
Yeah.
Cool.
Moving straight along, BGM is going to be the number 4 team, and HVG is actually going to be number 3. Which that's actually a notch down there in the standings. They are first, but
so I want to talk about this real quick. The reason I actually had HVG 3. I was surprised that many other people agreed with me, but we talked about RIP briefly with Eric about how their only 2-0 was against TST. Well, when you look at the strength of schedule that HVG's had as opposed to the other 2 teams that we've had, you can't deny that they've 2-0'd everybody, and you have to credit them for that. But I just don't feel comfortable enough putting them in the top 2 spots because of the teams that they played, which I believe are TST, Slapnut Bagoos, and G5.
Yes.
Yeah.
You're correct. Which 7, 9, and 10 on the power rankings, tied for 7.
And the bottom 3 in the
basically
standings in our overall standings.
I mean, it's not exactly bottom 3. That's just how they ended up being sorted. They're all tied. But yeah, essentially the bottom 3 teams in the league, which, again, they're 2-0s. Like, you give them credit, but I want to see them get some wins against some higher up teams. And next week they're playing We Are a Rhino, which is...
Yeah, let's go.
Yeah, that's probably match of the week right there. Like, just saying. And so yeah, finally the number 1 and 2 spot. It's gonna be War in the number 1 spot and Pooh number 2. I think the main reasoning for War being first is because they 2-0'd BGM, who I think looked really strong coming into the week.
I don't think that's the only reason. I mean,
That's
obviously I'm a
a
little bit
reason.
biased because my team, but like 3 of our wins, we won one game 16-2, one game 22-3, one game 20-4. We played freaking clean League of Legends.
This is true.
And that's the eye test for me. It's less about the wins and losses, it's more about how clean does your team look. And Pooh in a lot of their wins, their early game is not very good. And they can get through and still win on the back of wave clear and Bear Jr.'s shot calling.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that discounts them in any way. Obviously, they're still a strong team. But essentially what I'm saying with this is if Pooh can shore up their early game and get to the point where they have a lead going into the mid game, like every game, then it's going to make a difference. They're going to be a better team by that aspect.
I would actually, I didn't get a chance to fully complete my rankings this week, but I did do some team power rankings. I would put Pooh above War personally. I understand that our average, we're putting War above Pooh. My reasoning, though, is just that War's one loss came to Slapnut Magoo's in week 1. I understand that week 1 is like a litmus test, and everybody is kind of, testing themselves out and stuff like that. But Pooh has had a very tough schedule. They played against week 1. They played against Rip, who we are putting in the middle of our pack here.
I don't even count that as like week 1 Rip as middle of the pack team.
I
count that as bad as TST.
I mean, a game's a game.
A game's a game.
Yeah,
But like this was with me in top lane.
I mean, that's totally fine. It's reasonable, but we're talking about strength of schedule in general here. And then the second week they played against GDA, and GDA still is. I think GDA has one of the hardest schedules of the split. I'm not even being biased there. I think that we've started our first 3 weeks against pretty strong teams.
BAT, Bear Jr., and Gurk 5. Yeah.
Yeah, that's 2 of the top half teams. And I when I made my power rankings, I agree with Adam here. I have Pooh above War, not necessarily just because of the strength of schedule, but because I just think they're a stronger team top to bottom.
Also, they've won a lot of their games without a jungle item. Like,
yeah, they're giving themselves a handicap, and they're still.
I mean, we won a 4v5.
So. that's true. You gotta give Eric that. They won a basically 4v5 against BGM.
Is it really a 4v5 if the game is paused though?
Yeah. I mean, it was only a 4v5 for like 5 minutes. Even though the 30 minutes of her not being there is totally like discounted from the record. But I just think that Pooh also, from a analyst standpoint, is so hard to approach in the draft phase. And we've seen that every week, that no one's figured them out. And honestly, if it wasn't for BAT, in my opinion, and I know it was with Adam talking about this, Pooh could have been down 2-0 to BAT if they would have secured their first win. But because of his shot calling and because of coming back, and then I think that says more for a team to come back in a game than to just dominate and stomp a team. Because we're still all, amateurs, but being able to like morale your team around, hey, we got to make some picks, we got to make some plays, and playing to your own win conditions says more to me than just, stomping some people through some pretty decent shot calling. Because I can attest that it's so much easier to shot call win ahead because your win conditions are so apparent.
Holy yes.
True.
When playing from behind like that, I believe it was like a 5,000 goal deficit for them at one point, maybe? I could be just pulling that out of my butt, but I'd have to go check. But it was a pretty big goal deficit for them, especially with 2 assassins that can just delete your carries.
Right.
Well, something very core to look at too here is, as we talked about the roster issues with the 2 bottom teams in the rankings, if you look at the 2 top teams, the thing that's most clear is that they each have a very, very strong shot caller that they all trust extremely, extremely well to get them through that game. Their entire team works like a well-oiled machine. So obviously it's like picking at little details for no reason. We're talking about 2 very strong teams that every team is going to have to prepare extensively to have a shot against. So obviously these spots could just be interchanged. but obviously they're both doing very well.
And the one last thing I'd like to point out is not only do they have two really good shot callers, but playstyle wise, they have someone in the top lane that they know can carry and just split push to take advantages off the rest of the map. They have two very decent junglers who can go help the rest of the way around, and then their shot calling is in different lanes, but top lane is very, very solid for them. They have Hillary Clinton and Blackestran, who are two of the top maybe like 3 or 4 top laners in our league, and they both play good split push champions to get advantages for the rest of their team.
Yeah.
And I will add in that they play War and Pooh play each other in week 7 later in the season, and if they can keep looking this strong, that match is going to have playoff implications and will just be a damn good match. But moving along, we've got the OP5 for the week. Let's start in the top lane. We just talked about him, actually. Is Balakashan from We Are a Rhino.
Yep, just talked about this guy. Gets advantages for the rest of his team. Feel like it makes it easier on a shot caller when you know that one side of the map is just easily going to win or just take pressure away. Caleb didn't want to play top lane, and look where he is.
Yep.
And I mean, we can't understate, like, there was one fight in the second game. Caleb on his Aatrox essentially 1v4ing. It was like 1.5 v4ing because he had Zorpox there giving him heals. But it was an insane, just... I think I remember what he said was, I've never right-clicked so hard in my life. So...
Oh, okay. Well, continuing along Indie Jungle for this week, we do have General Dill from the Big Anime Titties.
Oh, that's my LAN partner right there.
Nothing but respect for my LAN partner. What?
No,
Just got to get you a Latin American lover, okay?
yeah. I think when we talked about it last week, I mentioned General Dill being the one person who could abuse Labby and his greed, essentially, is the way we can put it, in pathing and itemization. And that happened. General Dill, very calculated, very good. Obviously, like we said, could have been a 2-0 for him, but just he played really, really well last week.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Continuing along, in the mid lane, DJ Mad Hatter from Hidden Valley Gaming.
I don't think it's a surprise. I think Frank had a really good set last night that they played. Was always where he needed to be, was always getting kills, and was just able to just play at the right arm's length to where he could get his damage off on both Vel'Koz and Vigar without getting caught and getting picked off immediately. So
yeah, and I just want to highlight really quickly 3 splits in a row Frank has played, and he has been incredibly consistent, possibly in the contention for most consistent player across 3 seasons that we've had. He's played the same role this split. Here we are 3 weeks in. He's sitting at an 11 KDA, tops of all mid laners right now. He just really, really always plays like clear, fundamental mid lane, and gives everybody exactly what they need on his team from him. So that guy is just like a real rock, and I think he will be for a long time.
Yeah. And for what it's worth, he did get second in both of the past splits of PMA LCS, so that's the definition of consistency right there. But continuing on,
Frank's like LeBron James.
Yeah,
he's literally like the Cleveland Cavaliers, dude. He gets into the finals, but he doesn't win, but he's still LeBron.
Basically. Anyway, the ADC, again from We Are Rhino, Fudgy Ditters. And I will actually lump in support because the OP5 support is his lane partner, Zorpox.
Yep, we got 3 of War's players here. And Fudgy just was dealing some crazy damage.
Them deeps, though.
Yeah, them deeps. No QSS, though, but we'll work on that.
Hey, but he worked out okay.
Yeah, luckily. My goodness, that last team fight.
Right?
I was like, oh my god, he's alive. Okay.
Yeah, Frank with some Fudgy with some very dominant plays there. I think there was an MF game in there, am I mistaken?
Both of them were MF.
Yeah, those ults were just phenomenal. Most of the game, he was just going crazy.
MF is busted, but that doesn't really take away from having some godlike MF ults.
Even though I had to appeal for his boosted butt.
You can't call him boosted when you put him as your ADC, dude.
I mean,
Put him as your OP. Like,
Well,
I mean,
you should have you should put yourself there as ADC if you think you carried him so much. Okay.
I mean, speaking of appealing for him, Zorpox, he did way better than I think we expected. I mean, he is not to put him down, he is the lowest ranked member of War, but he got MVP. Like, I think it was game 1 of the series. Yeah, he outshined for better for worse high elo players. I think that's really impressive. He had a really good series overall.
James is making a whole lot of plays, and I think I personally attributed the MVP. There was a fight bot lane in that first game. That got a little bit hairy at one point, and then James hit a double bubble that was just like so clutch. And like that's the thing. Like he's not necessarily the most flashy player, but it's clutch. He'll do what he needs to do when he needs to do it and make it happen.
Y'all played this game on Wednesday, did you not? Eric?
Good talk.
Eric? Hello?
Hello?
Eric?
Alright, well, Eric died, guys.
press F, pay respects for Guy Fieri.
I'm back.
Okay, never mind. Do not press
Eric.
F. Press F press minus F to minus your Fs. What?
Y'all played this game on Wednesday, right, Eric?
Yes.
Okay, I was like, oh god, he's gone. I remember exactly where I was when I was watching Zorpox play the Nami. I was screaming in my car with how well he was. I was driving home from church and I saw his Nami plays, and I was like, and I got home, and I just said, if y'all don't give this MVP to this dude right here, and I was spamming it in chat, and I was so glad that he got MVP because he deserved it so much. The tidal waves that he had in the bot side jungle on red side were so good for disengages. It was amazing. I've never seen better Nami play it in this league.
I don't remember where I was, and that's because it was such a traumatic experience for me watching that game. It was so incredible that I literally blacked out. It might have been the alcohol, but it was probably the game.
The 7 pauses.
Oh my lord!
Double bubble trouble for theatrics and his alcohol problems.
It's only a problem if you think it is, man.
Oh, man.
Anyway,
let's go on to our player power rankings. This is, again, looking ahead at next week who we think will be the best performers. And starting at number 20, we actually have a tie, so I need to...
No, it's fine. 20's fine. Leave it.
No, because I'm doing... I did color coding, but it is... We do have Akiyut and Piper is tied at number 20. Good talk, guys. Anyway, number 19.
little explanation behind it. Who are HVG and BGM facing this week?
BGM is facing BAT.
And HVG is playing War.
Yeah, and
right there, right next to it.
Yeah.
All right. So this is based on strength of matchup. You know, these are obviously going to be some tough games, some pretty well contested games. So you can probably assume that the KDAs are going to be a little more conservative across both teams. Obviously, these player power rankings being kind of more based on like fantasy score and like overall bombastic KDAs that people could put out. So it's likely that those games will be a little quieter up until some late game team fights.
Either that, or they're going to be extremely bloody, and the KDAs will be very conservatively low. But yeah, I had both of these guys on my top list. That we'll all release our own individual ones later, or just message us if you want it. Akiyut last night looked really, really good on his Fiora. Am I correct? Did he play Fiora?
He played Fiora one game. I don't remember what he played the other game.
Yeah, and then
it was Shen. It was Shen.
Shen, that's correct. Really, really good top laner, showing some diversity in his champ pool. And then Piper had like a down week last week, but I think it's time for him to like kind of step up, because like we talked about netting up or shutting up last week on him, and he kind of was a little bit quieter in his gameplay, but I think
No pun
this-
intended, because Piper
Yeah.
had lost his voice for the series.
Oh yeah, that's
Oh,
right.
really?
He did lose
Oh.
his voice. Yeah,
He was literally Batman.
yeah.
That's
And
amazing. Oh
Bat-
my god.
speaking of Batman, he plays Bat this week, so
Hey,
Oh.
it comes full circle.
full Bat circle.
You're done.
Oh my lord. Okay, anyway. Next up, number 19, from the Big Anime Titties, Bad X Instincts, our man Sebastian.
Yeah, I was a big proponent of Sebastian on this one, and for me it comes down to, I think Sebastian is the crux to Jimmy, because they're playing. Where are we at? Why can't I find it?
BGM.
Yeah, they're playing BGM. So it's Sebastian versus Jimmy, and Jimmy as a laner he plays tanks well, and he can be lane dominant. But into carries, I've noticed sometimes Jimmy starts to fall behind a little bit, and so I think Sebastian could have a potentially solid time in that lane, and maybe get ahead and get to where he was on the Jace game 2 in the last series that they played.
Yeah, he's definitely a crux for. He's kind of like a win condition, as most of these top laners right now can be, and are solid foundations for a win condition for a team.
Yeah, if you play top lane and you're in FIMU Alpha, sign up for this next split, because that is a real X factor for us right now. Not a lot of wiggle room from the top of the table down to the bottom of the table, so could definitely use some new
Maybe
blood.
it would help if top laners stopped switching to jungle. No.
Oh, maybe Dylan will switch to top and have his fourth role in 4 splits.
Oh my
Right?
god, please no.
Maybe Eric could stop memeing himself. You're a top laner who went to jungle.
That's what I said.
Yeah. Oh my god, I just realized we have 3 junglers and an ADC in here. Oh my god. And the ADC
I
It's
mean,
is
really
staying-
bad, really
That sounds
bad
like a
adult
really
film.
bad porno. Right.
An ADC and 3 junglers. Oh, so you mean bot lane? You know, that's just kidding.
Anyway.
Anyway, I put Sebastian actually at number 12 instead of number 19 just because I factored in actually quite a bit who these guys were going up against, and Jimmy just doesn't do that well in lane. He contributes a lot to team fights, but in lane he honestly kind of just rolls over and dies. And Sebastian,
Hey, but I will keep on fighting for my man Jimmy. Okay, the guy is performed
big
split, like
Jimmy.
100% bigger dick than he has ever been before. Okay.
Oh yeah.
Oh my god.
All right, number 18.
Okay, but yeah, I expect Sebastian to go off against Jimmy. Anyway, number 18 and number 19, or number 17, gonna lump together just to keep things moving along. Also, because they're from the same team in That Random Guy You Know and Hillary Clinton from A Bear Jr. Poops in the Woods.
And yeah, they're going up against Gurg 5. I think bot lane wise, it's a good matchup for Pooh. And I know maybe Random Guy is a little bit down from where some people might expect him to be, from where his stats are. But the concern that I have with him, and kind of like what I'm calling for from him, is he's like the opposite end of the spectrum is Fudgy Ditters. Fudgy Ditters will face tank everything to get his damage off. Random Guy sometimes doesn't get his damage off at all. Because I was looking at damage per minute, and Fudgy's at like 800 a minute or something, and Random Guy does at like 300. And Pooh plays generally more bloody games than War does. That's just their style, so you'd expect more damage per minute coming out of that AD carry.
It'll be interesting to see as well, because it's the first time that Bear Jr.'s team has faced off against a diamond mid laner in CVAN. Usually Hiramar is able to kind of have his way with the opposing team, but there's going to definitely be a shift of jungler focus for Labby in that game.
Even last week versus Jingo and Shane, though, Hiramar did not have his way in that lane either game. So
yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how their team dynamic shifts when the power is taken away from the bot lane being able to have a lot of focus and the top lane being able to have a lot of focus. So yeah, we'll definitely see there.
Just some stats, actually. Fudgy Ditters, yes, he's putting out a lot of damage, but he's also putting out a lot of his team's damage with not much of his team's gold. He's putting out 35% of his team's damage, which is ridiculous, with 23% of the gold, which is 155% of the damage to gold ratio, and That Random Guy You Know is 93%.
Rich will talk about Fudgy.
Yeah, we'll get to Fudgy, but
He said in chat because I can't farm. Lol.
Yeah, just, and that random guy, he does have the second highest CS per minute. He does farm quite well. I do want to see him do more with the gold he does get, because as ridiculous as his KDA is, it's 31. He has a less than 400 damage per minute, and
that's exactly what I was saying.
Yeah, I want to see more from him. Anyway, Hillary Clinton, the guy's honestly just a bit of a monster on things, even on some things that aren't Yorick. Although last week we did see him get neutered a little bit by Sebastian, and by neutered a little bit. Shut up! I couldn't think of a better word.
He was playing Nasus, dude. That's hilarious.
Oh my god! I didn't even think about that. Yeah, his Nasus got neutered quite a bit right there, but I'm looking to see him bounce back this week. I think that's gonna be actually one of the big matchups of the week. Dr. Volmundo versus Hillary Clinton, two guys who want Yorick, who want to split push for days, and honestly, I think Hillary Clinton's gonna actually get the better end of it.
Cool.
Yeah, don't ever say neutered again.
I will neuter you before I stop saying neutered.
Anyway,
number 16. Hey, he's on the desk. It's Guy Fieri, and number 15 is Baja Blast Lover.
Hey, that's me. That's my dude in my chapter. Yay!
Oh, really?
Yeah, so I put Eric up here because I think his performance last week really helped, my case for him. His decision making in the late game, in the very late game, while Ali was out, showed me that he knows when to pull the trigger and when to take good fights on Sejuani. That being said, they're going against HVG, who is the only undefeated team right now. So, and I think him versus is it
Elliot?
No, Elliot. Urion, correct?
Yep.
And Urion had a really good game last night too. So I was just looking at that specific matchup in general, and also just HVG's still looking very strong. While I do have War ranked higher individually, I think Eric really has a chance to prove himself this week. I wasn't extremely too confident just within the overall match of the team comps to put him any higher.
I honestly agree with a lot of what you just said. So, as far as it's still a tough matchup. So I still gotta perform. That's not just a free I'm gonna go do whatever I want.
Yeah, it's not like you versus me, and then people are like, "Oh, Sean's gonna have a free jungle." So
oh snap!
Yeah, and over for Baja Blast Lover, I think mostly it's he has good stats. He has almost 700 DPM, which is actually quite high, and he's not the focus of GDA, but he does his job. He puts out a lot of damage, but more he's also on this list because he's going up against the Will Brooks this week. And TST, Oof. The Torpedo, the legend. Which, it's not so much that we think Will is bad, but he hasn't played mid this split. He played mid last split, but I don't expect TS2 to do well this week. Even if you showed me, if you just hid their opponent for me, I would still say they wouldn't do well. Not because they've been doing bad, but because they're just coming off a roster swap and shuffling some things around. So,
well, and with Baja Blast Lover, I know two of his favorite comfort pick champions are Akali and Kassadin, and I know that two of the cruxes of Wilbrooks and Lane are assassins. So it's an optimal matchup for Baja Blast Lover, especially if they can find a comp that gets him onto one of those assassins for him. So.
Yeah, sorry, man. Will, you're going down, dude. Pour one out for my bullet, homie.
Let's go. Jesus. That's what I was waiting for. I was waiting for Adam to come up and be like, "This is your mid laner, man. Hype him up." What's
I don't like doing bias casting, but I'm just gonna say I'm gonna fucking roast Will. Okay.
Jesus. No, it's funny because I think Will not playing mid this split, and also his champion pool might be a little bit smaller right now in the mid lane. And if Baja Blast plays as well as he did in the Akali game, even that they lost, I think it was 2 weeks ago. Baja Blast he's gonna sink the torpedo. Okay, it's gonna be.
Wait, isn't the torpedo already sunk?
Exactly.
No,
it's not. Torpedo is what sinks.
Wouldn't it raise the torpedo then?
No, because
No.
torpedoes are not sunk nor are they risen because they're on a direct line because they have they're propelled by the propeller
you don't
behind them.
know.
What
You don't
the
know
hell?
torpedo science.
Yeah, you don't know their lives, Sean. What the fuck?
Yeah,
Did
I
you
actually
just
know their lives.
assume their
I have a
propulsion?
Did I assume their proportion?
Oh my gosh, God.
Okay, we're gonna keep going. This is a tie for 13th place. It is Jirachi from RIP. Hey, that's me. And Rurion from HVG.
So we briefly talked about Elliot earlier when we mentioned Guy Fieri, which, I said I feel like his play is a little bit more consistent. He's always there at the right times and right places. He showed some carry pants last night as well.
Kane.
Yeah, this Kane was really, really good come late game once he actually got to switch into the Rost, which I was glad that he chose the Rost because it was the right one for the team comp.
Because everyone should.
Yes. Adam, we're not supposed to let them know that. And then,
I would rather be beating people while they're playing well,
yeah,
Oh, Jesus.
I guess. And then is water wet? Yes. Short bus warrior. It is. Oh, short bus warrior. That's my
Short
dude.
Bus Warrior is Bear Jr., by the way.
Really?
Is that who that is?
Yes.
Okay, so he had the comment of the week for all of chat when you were on Speedy Ramis. He said it seems like Adam's in his promos because it's like you were trying to carry everybody.
Dude, I was actually trying to see how long I could make a game go and then try to throw it at the end. That was basically how it was.
Rich last week had a decent showing against TSD, but going up into this week against S&M, I'm not sure who's playing for them as of right now. We talked about
I
roster.
believe they have
it's
their...
still Family Man and definitely not Sal in the bot lane.
Okay, yeah. Well, I just know we saw the roster swap last night for some subs, but Rich is since his switch down to ADC, they've been doing better
Yay.
in terms of overall KDA. It's where they
Literally everything.
yeah. Man, whoever made that move really helped Rich in these power rankings. That's all I gotta say.
And for me, Rich is in a similar spot as Frank. It's not obviously quite the same, but if you think of the AD carry position and the most consistent AD carry of PMA LCS over time, it's Rich.
I actually
hands down,
I had not thought about that, but okay.
I mean, you could say it was Dylan. No, I'm joking.
Dylan!
Didn't played like 4 games and AD carry led split. The rest of the games he played mid.
That's what I'm saying. He's literally the most consistent. Most consistently trolling.
What
Most
about
consistently trolling? I'll give him most consistently trolling. I'll give him that one.
Okay. Something most consistent and Elliot?
And we're moving on.
Yeah. No, Elliot's also been up there in the jungle the first split. His team didn't make playoffs, but he was voted the all-star jungler. He had some great performances that split, and then last split he was on passive aggressive Red Panda, who was pretty much first or second place for the entire split.
So Boston semis RIP.
RIP. Both TSF also losing in semis, but yeah, he's been very consistent throughout the splits too. He had some great performances, pretty much during the entire PMA LCS. So he's kind of in the same boat. Anyway, moving on. Number 12. Oh, that's not right. Hold on. I accidentally cut and pasted our names again.
I wish you would have just flipped the rankings upside down.
Anyway, number 12 is Aurion's teammate, Allergic to Milk, and number 11 is Eric's mid laner, Violet Sociocat.
I'm going to say this right now. I think Allie is criminally low on my personal list. I did not have her outside the top 10. Okay. With that being said,
my reasoning for her being lower is she's going up against Frank, and Frank, I think, is they're pretty much even laners, but I think Frank is actually better in lane.
So I think, I'll go back to Allie. Allergic to Milk Sal, he's been doing really, really well. Has been playing just some of the best support probably in the league in terms of what it's meant for their team's success as an individual, his plays, not necessarily what he's doing together in the team fights of the comp. But his
Right.
Bard games, again, we said it last week, ban this man's Bard. No one
Yup.
did. And then they paid for it. So he played it in game 1 last week versus S&M, and it got them ahead, and it allowed for the rest of his team to follow up on his magical journeys and his tempered fates.
Absolutely.
In terms of Allie, I just think what she brings to the team cannot be quantified again.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah.
It
Oh,
cannot
I'll
be
say that.
quantified, which is so hard when you're doing power rankings. And I will preach this until the day that we're done with this split or whatever,
We're
or
done
until
with
she's
PMA
done playing.
LCS.
Yeah,
Hopefully
that
never. But
Whatever it is.
yeah, well, until when she's done or whatever. But she was the main reason why I wanted them to 2, or I thought they would 2-0 BGM last week, and this is another tough matchup for her. And I think that she's going to do well in it. Now, Frank is a fantastic mid laner, as we have him as our OP5 this week. I think she deserves a little bit more respect, but not, overall, it's going to be a really tough matchup for her, so I can understand the lower ranking.
All right, number 10 and number 9. This is actually a tie, so it's really just both number 9. It is Frontlash from SNM and Sean Shannon, our analyst, Menbog.
So that's kind of interesting that they're playing against each other. Fun fact. But for me, when I think of top lane in the LCS, at least from Split 1 and now Split 3, Frontlash has always been kind of the golden standard of like what you should strive to do. He's solid in lane. He doesn't get caught out ever. He knows how to team fight really well. He can get roams off really solidly. Frontlash does everything a top laner is supposed to do, and I think regardless of the performances that Slapnuts have been putting up so far, even in their losses, Frontlash is doing everything he can to hard carry and playing out of his brains. The series that they played against Boosted Gorilla Monkeys, Frontlash was on the Gnar and was like the sole reason that Slapnuts stayed in the game as long as they did, because his Gnar plays were just straight up nasty.
Yeah, I don't think it can be understated that Frontlash is 100%. His results are 100% a product of the situation he's in right now, and not him as a player.
Oh, 100%.
And as much as this whole thing is about teams, this is our opportunity during the recaps to highlight players and their individual skill sets. Frontlash on literally any other team in the split would probably be doing a totally different thing right now. So,
yep.
Yeah, I think Frontlash is. You saw the ability to switch between roles mid-split and then still perform well is huge, and then him going back most likely to his comfort role this upcoming week against Sean is going to be, really, really tough for Dustbite. I feel just because he's one of the better top laners in the league. He plays really methodical and calculated, and as Adam just said, he is the result. His results don't reflect him as a player.
Yeah, and if I may toot the horn of my own jungler for a little bit, I think Menbong. I mean, last 2 weeks he had Kane for one game out of the series, and he just put on a clinic both of those games. Like, straight up, he just had so much early game pressure. He snowballed all of us across the map, and just he did so much, and he was pretty much he's the big reason we have been actually winning games. And I think going up against Sir Everett's, I think Sir Everett's, if you give him Vi, he can do a lot. If you don't give him Vi, he's still a great player, but like I think Menbong will kind of buckle a little bit under the early pressure that Menbong will be able to apply. So
I can't really disagree with that. So,
and also Menbong's champ pool is ridiculous. Like, this isn't even me trying to be like, oh, don't ban him out because his champ pool is actually tiny. No, for my pick and ban prep, his champ pool is ridiculous. You cannot ban him out.
Just ban Jarvan and Elise. You'll be fine.
But then you leave up Kane, and then he just wrecks your entire team.
You leave up Kane. I'm picking Kane, Sean.
Well, okay. Well, you're not playing me this week, so congratulations.
Just prepare for me, Sean.
All right, you know what, Adam? I can't wait.
you heard it here first.
I'm done with all of you. Let's just keep going. Number 8, we've got Balakashran, and number 7, we've got Sivan.
So, Galactic Strand, but dude, I think a lot of this is you talk about gold standards for top lane. Caleb is another gold standard on the like pure just mechanical
Something
skill
about gold
level.
standard for gold medal for golden shower, gold
I don't.
standard. Hell yeah.
And so it's very similar to Front Lash, where like they're two different players, but what they do is what you want in a top laner. Because Front Lash is really good with the macro and the just knowing what to do at any given time. And Galactic Strand, his individual mechanical skill is just what you look for. That's just what it comes out to for me.
And Sivan, he's Sivan's kind of interesting. I'll give him that. let's just go. Let's just
leave it there.
Leave it there. No.
Sivan.
No, I know, I'm neutral.
As Adam spoke earlier, he is in a matchup that we expect him to possibly do well with, because this is the first week that Pooh is facing a diamond ranked mid laner. Obviously, Sivan has his like 3 super strong picks, but he's just a good mid laner overall. And this could be the week to where he shows some chinks in Hiramar's armor that we've been speculating about here today.
Well, and keep in mind too that it's not about the fact that Hiramar is not used to going up against strong players. It's just the fact that strong players, if they spend a long amount of time playing against people below their skill level, can tend to start losing some of what made them so good. And it's not that they lose it forever, it's just that they get used to playing kind of choppier styles of lane. They kind of match the laners that they're against. And so for him to go up against a diamond mid laner, somebody who might even be a little bit above the skill level that he's used to playing in his solo queue games, he might find himself a little bit out of practice against some of the standards that may be a little more regular for him in solo queue.
Yeah.
So that's something to look forward to.
I feel like that's the reason why TSM fails at Worlds, honestly, is because like Bjergsen's playing against NA solo queue talent, and everyone else is playing against better mid laners, even if it's an EU, because that's obviously where we got him from. So your point has some, like, it has some precedence to it.
Yeah.
Well, Bear and I just talked about this last week, that it's really hard to go into solo queue after playing a bunch of Bro 5v5s for fun. Like, if you go immediately from solo queue into playing, or from Bro 5v5s into solo queue, it's like night and day. Like, you find yourself playing worse because you are playing kind of like lolzy when you're playing with your friends. But like,
it's essentially flex from flex queue to solo queue, and obviously your flex queue for most people is not as high as their solo queue.
Unless you're me and your flex is gold 3.
Well, but there's more discrepancy between what the talent of each of those people in flex is with like their solo queue MMRs. So that's essentially what I feel like Adam's saying right there, and I 100% agree.
Yeah, and I'm interested to see how Hiramar does against Sivan, also because of some champ pool reasons. Sivan, both players have their top tier picks. Sivan has his Diana Kog'Maw. I'm missing one.
Ari.
He has those 3, and Hiramar has Anivia Vigar. We haven't seen Hiramar off those 2 picks really.
We saw Hiramar play Victor,
and it wasn't great.
But we saw him play it
correctly. We did see him play it, but knowing Sivan, I think he will ban out the Anivia Vigar or do something to limit that. So we'll see what Hiramar can do off his picks, because we have seen Sivan off his main 3 picks, and he still puts up a lot of work.
Sivan will probably still ban Malzahar, even though Hiramar doesn't really.
The man was asking me to ban Malzahar basically every single game last, but he was just like, nope. Anyway, we're gonna keep going. Number 6. Beef 92. So, nope, his name's not Beef 92. It's Gerg 7. And number 5, DG Mad Hatter.
Yeah, I think these 2 mid laners are actually very similar players in a lot of ways. They're fairly lane dominant, and they're really good about getting out their damage in late game team fights. For me, I think the reason why DG Mad Hatter dropped a little bit from last week, because he was, I believe, number 1 last week.
Yes.
Came down to the matchup. It came down to playing against Violet Sociocat, playing against War, playing against a very tough matchup. I don't know that Frank's going to have the same type of performance that he's had thus far this split. And then
thanks, Adam.
for Gerg 7, I mean, the last set they played, it was rough. Greg, that was honestly, I think, the first time, A, that Greg's Lux has been beaten, and B, that Greg lost an 0-2 in the regular season of a split. So it was kind of a kink in his armor, and obviously we saw him sixth because he's got the track record to show for it. But I want to see Greg step it up next week and kind of rebound and see where he can come coming off of a loss, and make sure that it was just kind of a fluke type situation for them, and get him back up in that top 5, top 4 echelon.
Alrighty, gonna keep going. Number 3 and number 2. Number 4, we talked about him earlier, is Fudgy Ditters, and number 3 is gonna be General Dill.
So I said this. I didn't say it last week because I was on the stream last week, but when I was setting my power rankings, I think I had Dylan at like 12th because he wasn't on his game. He just wasn't there, and I said when Dylan's on his game, he's top 3 material in this league. Dylan was on his game in the last set. Look what happened. He's in the top 3. It's amazing how that happens. So,
wow.
I definitely think. I know Dylan had taken a little time off as far as like being kind of serious about league and really practicing, and really was focusing on Heroes of the Storm a lot more. And ever since their match against War, I saw Big Anime Titties on all the time, playing like all the time together as a team, and it showed because they looked so much better in their last set. And I think there's still so much room for improvement for Big Anime Titties that like there's only room. Oh, it was Destiny 2. Excuse me. Yeah, I knew it was another game.
Wait, why the fuck am I subscribed to the PMA LCS?
Wait, that wasn't you?
What is this?
Yeah.
And who the hell was it?
It was Sean. Sean gifted us something Anyway.
Continue with analysis. Stop groaning, Rich.
Anyway, talking about then Fudgy Ditters. We touched on this a little bit when we were talking about random guy, because like KDA wise, those are your top 2 AD carries right now. But for me, the difference, I don't care if Fudgy dies a little bit more if he's dealing damage. Like that's the job of AD carry, and that's what Double Lift always talks about when he's talking about what the role of AD carry is designed. It's designed to push the envelope, push kind of the pressure, and get your damage off, even if it means you put yourself in danger for a hot minute. Obviously, there's a fine line, and I think Fudgy almost crossed it even in game 1 of that set, and the only reason he lived is because we were up so much. But he knows that line, and he's fully confident of being able to push that line and just pressure for that one extra auto, that one extra little bit of damage that might get the kill to turn the team fight.
Yeah, I'll say this. I'll disagree with one thing. The first role of an ADC is to not die. That is their first job, because you can't do damage if you're dead. So
I agree with that, actually.
I do too.
Yeah.
From an ADC, from the ADC on the desk, I agree with that.
Yeah,
But
I
the
would be
second
upset
role
if the top people in the split that had the KDAs were not ADCs. Like, I would be mad about the quality of our league.
I mean,
Yeah.
the top KDA from last split was an ADC.
Okay,
Or-
Rich.
over that one.
It was me.
Yeah, good. Nice self-plug again. But so that's the only thing I'll disagree with you on. But I do think Fudgy, he knows how to put himself out there. That's just the one thing I would would be hesitant about, is that his positioning sometimes, or his itemization choices towards the late game, is more about damage than being able to continually put out damage. If that makes any sense. If he doesn't have a QSS, but he built like a Bloodthirster instead, and then he gets CC'd, well, he has more damage to output, but if he doesn't have the way of getting out of that CC, if he's in a bad spot, then he can't put out that damage that he has. I'd rather him take a little bit safer route in those sort of instances, and this week versus HVG, I think it's going to be pretty tough when it comes to opponent-wise, because you have the man right below him and DG Mad Hatter and his team looking really, really good. And also Sal in that bot lane possibly going to just give him some fits if they give Bard over. So it's going to be really tough.
Yeah.
GA is not the same as QSS, Fudgy.
What?
It's not the same. Don't.
It doesn't serve the same purpose, but like GA is a defensive item.
You also can't do damage when you're getting revived from GA. Okay,
Yeah,
so
you can't do but you can't do damage when you're dead either, and you're not dead from GA. Anyway, number 2 and number 1. Number 2, same as last week, Bear Jr. And number 1, it's Theatrics.
Wait, why?
What do you mean why? Look who you're playing.
Hey, don't talk about Rob like that, man.
We're not talking about Rob, we're talking about Julio. So...
All memes aside.
Oh wait, that's true. No, I'm sorry.
I think it is
my god! First off, do you not look at these power rankings, Adam?
Dude, I'm trying to push for the most deaths in the split. Why am I ranked 1?
Honestly, like I don't think I think you're in a very strong matchup for you. Whether you're playing a tank or a carry, like I think it gives you a chance to do a lot, and especially since you're going to be the main playmaker in the early game, and that's where Spanish torpedoes tend to fall behind more. It's not that they can't group and fight in the late game; it's that they get so far behind in lane that it makes it impossible to play.
So Bear Jr. Pooh going against Gurg 5. I feel like if they put him on any of these playmaking champions, Blitz, Thresh, anything that has the ability Bard to catch out someone like Sivan. I mean not Sivan. Yeah, Sivan. Then he will. That's the way he's going to make his team probably get a 2-0 off the back of him and his shot calling. And then when we hit Theatrics, I suspect this is the game where he doesn't play a speedy Rammus, but he actually goes for some type of carry jungler. Because I mean, if we're just looking statistically, and then I'll go check real quick so I don't shoot my own. Put my foot in my mouth or whatever.
Where's this going?
Put my foot in my mouth, but
shoot your foot in your mouth? What?
Put my foot in my mouth is that I believe Clumsy is the lowest KDA jungler, or the one with the most deaths. And then, so Theatrics, you can't catch him in one game or two, so don't try. And I think that you're...
Actually, he's the lowest KDA player, period.
Okay, and then Theatrics is towards the top of the list.
Adam is 1 death away from matching Julio's deaths.
Oh my
I'm telling you, I have been trying to get.
He has kills and assists. That's the difference.
Okay, well, you can die numerous amount of times, but you're gonna have better KDA overall. And I just think that you're not gonna intentionally int in a game where there's.
I mean, well,
stop. Stop. If he wanted to do that, I suggest the week whatever matchup versus RIP. That'd be a great one to get your death.
Yeah, I agree. Yes.
Cyan says, play Cyan jungle, dying is now...
Yeah, I'm only playing tanks against fucking Spanish torpedoes, okay? I don't play carries anymore, boys.
You're reformed.
I'm reformed, I don't play carries anymore, guys.
I have 2 toenails on my... Okay, I'm not even gonna...
Yeah, where the fuck is Professor Toes, or whatever his name is?
Oh, yeah!
What? Okay, I don't even know where it came from. Anyway, we're done with the player power rankings. Let's go on to some predictions. First match of the week is Pooh versus G5, which is coming at you once I pull up the schedule. I'm not stalling at all. It's coming at you on Wednesday at 9:30 p.m. EST.
Could I take this one?
No, because we've already talked about the matches a lot, so we're just gonna do predictions.
Okay, that's fair.
You can talk a little bit about it, though.
If you want to, go ahead. Adam, go.
I'm going to start it off, and you guys are obviously going to jump in. I think that Pooh is going to take a 2-0 on this one. I think that Pooh losing their first game out of the split is going to wake them up a little bit. I think that they know what they need to improve. I think that they are capable of improving it very quickly. And I think that after G5's 1-1 against GDA last week, Pooh is going to have some very noticeable and clear stuff to look at to exploit against their team. I just don't see them losing a game against them.
I agree with Adam. I think
Bear Jr. his team's gonna take some power shits in the woods, and they're gonna go full overdrive.
Is that like massive, like squatting while you're?
Yeah, basically. Yep. Okay. They're trying to hit a new level. Okay,
2-0.
Yeah, I think it's gonna be a 2-0 as well, mainly just because I think Gurg 5 plays a one play style, and if you give Bear Jr. a week to try to go around that play style, which theirs is generally a pick comp with some bursty mage in the middle, and then you can just pick them off with like better shot calling.
Okay, I'm gonna be the unicorn, and I'm gonna say 1-1. Because I think G5 will take a game just off C-Van doing C-Van things. He gets one of his picks, and maybe, like, not necessarily Pooh doesn't, like, disrespect his champ pool, but, like, they focus on maybe banning something like the Yorick from Dr. Volamundo, and he gets one of his picks and he just goes off. I think that'll happen one game, not both. I think either it happens game 1 and then Pooh adjusts, or it happens game 2, which then that's the second game. So yeah, I'm gonna say 1-1. But
cool.
let's moving on. War versus HVG.
So I think that one is Wednesday night also at
Yes,
10:30
10:30.
p.m. So that'll likely get thrown to.
That will be on
The,
PMA SGN. Yes, I'm
right.
casting that.
And I'm
Which
gonna not
instantly
answer
just-
because
Yeah, and me just saying that I'm casting it instantly made the viewership on
Team?
0. So yeah.
team.
what?
Hello, analysis team or HVG.
That's what we're talking about.
Yeah.
Nobody was talking. Okay.
I was talking.
Oh.
He was talking the entire time. Your mic's been
Boy.
messed up the whole time, dude.
Oh. I'll be right here.
Move to expel Rich. Second.
Wait, you expel Rich? Okay.
All in favor? Aye.
So
Anyway.
War versus HVG is going to be a really interesting matchup. I think it's going to have, like we've talked about it, most of their, I believe, 4 of the 5 players on HVG in our top 20, and then we have 4 of the 5 from War in our top 20 as well.
Oh
So
my
it's
lord, we do.
it's a pretty hyped matchup.
And I'm just gonna throw this out there: the only 2 players from that match that aren't on the player rankings are the ones that are getting subbed out.
Oh.
Which is Zorpox and who?
Hoagie.
Hoagie. All right,
Because it's
so
gonna be Silent Toggle playing for Super Hoagie and Anvil playing for Zorpox.
yeah, all right. Well, then it's gonna be a pretty hype matchup with 2 subs in the bot lane as well, ADC and support respectively. I really want to give another 2-0 to War.
Oh.
Yeah,
It's gonna be-
just because I think while Ali may not be the dominant mid laner that we all believe Frank to be, that I think that the shot calling will be really, really good. And also I think in a 1v1 top lane matchup, where I think is the more interesting matchup against Akayu versus Balakistran, it's going to be Caleb favored.
I'm obviously not voting because it's my game and I'd be very biased. So just so the chat knows, that's why those X's are there.
I think that it's a 1-1. I do. I think it's a 1-1. I think that any top laner that plays carry style.
You cut out.
I think any jungler who plays carry style is plenty, or a top laner that plays carry style is susceptible to Balakistran. He doesn't get beaten by carries, so Account's going to have to adjust to that. But I do think that it's probably the best top lane matchup other than Frontlash could be against Balakistran this split. So it'll definitely be a more contested match. I'd say that War and HVG are probably the most similar teams in terms of composition to each other.
Yeah,
in the
I
split.
agree with a lot of that actually. Because we got a carry style top laners. We've got mid laners who play around their team well, or junglers who play around their team well. Strong, solid mid lane carries. AD carries who will deal damage. Supports who can make plays. Like top to bottom, it's very similar.
I mean, I don't know if I'm going to be casting that game, and I don't think I am actually, but the junglers will be the X factors in both of those games. Elliot's been one to be everywhere at the right time. Eric has been able to make some clutch decisions when it comes to late game team
You are
fights.
casting that match, actually.
Hell yes, let's go.
Let's go. It's you and me, boy. Okay. Anyway, we're gonna keep going. TST versus GDA. I'm just gonna start with 2-0 for GDA.
Same. I don't think there's much to talk about here. We already touched on a lot of it for power rankings.
Yeah, I think TST will show a lot of improvements. Probably having Robin the bot lane will definitely be better. I'm also going to go a 2-0 for GDA though.
Yeah.
I just want to take a moment and recognize Bear Jr.'s post. Matchup of the week, Acetate versus Blackie Chan. That's hilarious.
What?
Ass to Kate.
I'm gonna
Okay.
just buy. Okay. I think it's gonna be a 2-0 for GDA, but I do expect TST to put up a bigger fight this week. Anyway, S&M versus RIP. Menbug and I are not gonna comment on this because we're just gonna say 2-0, but we're not gonna put that down.
I wasn't going to say that.
This is a tough one. This is a tough one. I think, and I know that Dotspike's very confident about his chance against Frontlash, and I love that in him. So I was talking to him about that earlier. But I think Frontlash is going to be able to bring his team home a victory in this game. I could definitely see it happening. So I'm probably going to say 1-1. I think, I don't know. I think combined with the fact that Frontlash is a very solid top laner, they're going to have their jungler back, who I know Frontlash has a lot of synergy with. And their bot lane's finally getting a chance to play, and like Joe, Family Man 96, he hadn't played League for like 3 weeks or something before he played the first match he played, which was the second match of their split because he missed the first one. So I know with the time that they've had, I think S&M's going to rebound a little bit. I mean, pick themselves up a 1-1, but I mean, it is still RIP. You still have Menbong, you still have Jirachi, you still have very good playmakers and a solid team on the side of RIP. So
yeah, I'm gonna go 2-0 in favor of RIP. I think that S&M's changes to what they've been doing and the things that they've been experimenting with are going to end up benefiting them in the long run of the split. But I don't think that this is the week that they completely turn it around.
Okay, and our last match. I should mention some times. TST versus GDA will be on Thursday at 10 p.m. EST, and S&M versus RIP will be Saturday at 11 p.m. EST. And finally, BAT versus BG. Yes, you are. Finally, BAT versus BGM is next Sunday at 8 p.m. EST.
And what
do you guys think? I'm gonna say 1-1.
I think this matchup's gonna be lit. I think General Dill is back with a vengeance. That's why I have him. That's why he's number 3 in the power rankings. I think Dylan is ready to pop off like full level. But with that being said, I don't know that. I don't know. Dylan says.
Wait, how do you do that? How do you say he's about to pop off? I don't know, man.
I mean, he popped off last week and they went 1-1.
There is a bet going on.
I'll help you with this. I think that it's going to be 2-0 Big Anime Titties.
Oh.
Yeah.
Personally. I think that BGM is a really good team, but I think that getting one win against Pooh told Big Anime Titties loud and clear exactly what their playstyle needs to be to win games this split. And I think that BGM losing to War is indicative of them being susceptible to strong solo laners, but I don't think that BGM has gone up against a really strong jungler yet in their schedule.
Mm-hmm.
A really dominant jungler, I mean, somebody that is like the centerpiece of the team.
I know what you meant.
And I think that is going to be something that throws them for a bit of a loop, especially knowing Gerg is a jungler that benefits heavily from a carry.
In Fish Baby, you mean?
From somebody helping him gank his lane, not that Greg can't do his own thing, but
I get what you mean now. I get what you mean now.
Yeah.
Yes. So for me, I have to agree with my other jungler that hasn't spoken yet, or that has spoken in theatrics. It's got to be a 2-0 for Bat, mainly because I was more impressed with the way that they fought against Pooh last week, and then I incorrectly, because Gerg 5 and having actual Gerg on BGM messes with my head. So this is the team that plays like the pick comp style, most of the time very, very low wave clear, which is not good from playing from behind. Although while this league doesn't really tend to play around vision as much as it should, because we don't, even with all the vision scores, it's pretty low in terms of like how we play around vision as opposed to just placing wards to obtain like passive vision as opposed to proactive vision to make plays, and that's what you need to do when you're behind, especially when you're running team comps like BGM likes to do. So I think, just like Adam said, there's 2 strong solo laners. General Dill obviously coming back to form, and I think OP Gert is a very, very underrated kind of bot lane right now, especially going against the Animal Farm bot lane of Bison and Panda. I think
they're not playing it, Panda and Bison. They're playing Piper and Alistair Moody.
Oh
wrong
yeah, you're right.
matchup.
Wow,
Again,
it's
Oh
Gurg
my God.
again. Oh, Jesus Christ! I hate.
God.
There are too many memes in this freaking league.
Let's be clear though. Big Anime Titties has played probably the hardest schedule out of any team in the split. Like
Yeah.
Well,
actually,
they've already played Pooh and War.
so
Yeah.
Big Anime Titties record already being having themselves there with the 2 and 4, right there in the center of the middle of the pack. I don't really think that record is really indicative. And they also played against GDA, who had an equally hard, or almost equally hard, start of the split. So neither of those teams' records are really indicative right now of where they're at. And I think that Big Anime Titties are going to sooner than later pull ahead of the pack.
And not to this is not a meme, but I think also with both of them having strong, like strength of schedules, both of them have not suffered, but are kind of waiting for their shot caller, their junglers to kind of, I feel like, step up and get into a form of whatever it is, whether it's a carry or not just Speedy Ramus or whatever. But
Speedy Ramus!
and I'm being serious though. Like when both of their junglers are on their game, they're a force to be reckoned with. So
I think I've still got to give it 1-1. I still believe in Greg, and I think that Greg has plenty of outplay potential, and I do know that Greg doesn't necessarily have to get ganks to get elite. So I'm still gonna give it to Greg for one game, to Booster Gorilla Monkeys. But I don't think it's gonna be a convincing win that they get when they do get it. If that makes sense.
and what time is that game?
Sunday at
8. Yes. So yeah, with that, that'll do it. Thank you for tuning in. I believe we hit like 25 viewers. I think that's
Hell yeah.
We have been actually getting pretty consistently 20+ viewers here, and that makes
Our
me very
viewership
happy.
is way off this split.
Oh my God, yes.
You guys rock.
This is true. So with that, I have a game of League loading in. So I've been Jirachi with Theatrics, Menbung, and the Guy Fieri, and we will see all of you guys next week.